Fundamentally, Arcane is a story about duality, Piltover and Zaun, Shimmer and Hextech, magic and technology, a question and an answer. And running behind the various characters, storylines, plot points, there is a question that unites all 2 seasons and 18 episodes together. What makes us human? And the key to finding this answer can be found in the duality of order versus chaos. Now that Arcane is finished, the floodgates have opened. A massive wave of analysis, breakdowns, and video essays have crashed on the internet as people try and understand this show more and cope with the fact that it's over. So, I thought I'd join the fun. While Season 2 wasn't perfect, I still enjoyed it, and because of the quality of its writing and storytelling, I think there's a lot to learn from studying and appreciate it. As a bit of a side note, I do have some more review-style videos planned later down the pipeline, so if you want to know kind of more of my in-depth critical thoughts about the actual events of Season 1 and Season 2, don't worry, you will. But in this essay, I want to focus on the central question and consequent conflict of the entire show. There are 3 main parallel dualities in Arcane. 2 sisters, 2 brothers, and 2 cities. And I think the transcendent theme which binds these different characters and concepts, what really allows for their emotional impact to be so resonant, is the age-old concept of order versus chaos. Now, if you're not familiar with the duality of order versus chaos, it's a concept which is practically timeless. Its origins date back to both the Greek and more Eastern Taoist traditions. It has a role in almost every single creation myth, and, at least according to Nietzsche, is a fundamental part of the nature of art itself. Most recently, I've seen it talked about in the context of Jungian philosophy, and even as a way to analyze the difference between the masculine and the feminine. Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Pageau are figures who immediately come to mind. So it's no surprise that we can see this duality in Arcane. And let's be real. If you don't think the pacing of Season 1 was order and Season 2 chaos, then I feel like we just watched different shows. But seriously, to answer Arcane's central question, I want to track the conflict of order versus chaos through the various levels of Arcane's narrative, starting with the cities of Zaun and Piltover. In League of Legends lore, Piltover is known as the City of Progress, but dedication to technological advancement can be seen in both Zaun and Piltover, and I think their approaches to technology embody their conflicting philosophies. Piltover is a beautiful place, a place of gold and glass and sunlight, a city which truly lives up to its name, inspiring awe and wonder, inherently tied to cutting-edge technology and advanced learning. Piltover's structure hinges on order, an established rule of law. There is an active police force, a strict ruling council, and even an academy that regulates the more scholarly pursuits of the Piltovan populace. Even when presented with the invention of Hextech, the council hesitates to authorize its use, afraid that such an energy will disrupt the established order of the city. And when they do finally approve it, it operates under the strict authority of the higher-ups and is almost exclusively used for capitalistic pursuits. After the attack in Season 1, a power vacuum emerges in Piltover, yet despite this, the city still operates under a dictum of order. When Caitlyn is placed in power, it's in response to the chaotic terrorism of Zaun, and done in an orderly, albeit corrupt, political manner as opposed to an all-out power struggle. Zaun, in contrast, invents as a means of survival. The city is fueled by a technology known as chemtech, energy drawn from the industrial piping, glass, and chemical waste which make up much of the architecture and walkways. In Zaun, there are no laws or limitations other than the limits that scarcity of resources imposes. And you'll notice a complete lack of ethics surrounding, inventions and experiments. You'll notice this with Shimmer and any of the other, weapons or technology created in the show. Zaun is chaos in the truest sense. Unbridled invention, limited only by what one is physically and financially capable of. And this philosophy also decides the ruling class. Power is awarded only to individuals who can take it and keep it. Silco, who rules the Undercity with an iron fist for most of Season 1, keeps the various Chembarons under his control through explicit and implicit threat. He has power over the people only through their addiction to shimmer, as he is the sole supplier of the substance. And even after his death, the power for struggle among the remaining Chem-Barons further highlights Zaun's governing philosophy of might makes right. Order versus chaos. But despite the differences between these two cities and their ideals, when faced with a truly cosmic and existential threat, they use the benefits of both order and chaos, combining together to fight this evil. It's a perfect demonstration of kind of the human condition. But I'll get to this aspect of humanity in just a bit. If Zaun represents chaos and Piltover order, the next logical question is, what about the characters from these two cities? Well, starting with Jayce and Viktor, I think the duality is pretty clear. They are both rebels within their native systems, each one ironically representing the ideals of his opposing city. Jayce is constricted by Piltover's regulations and takes every opportunity to push back against them. He wants the uses of Hextech to be expanded at every turn. He even wants to make weapons with magic to use against Zaun, and generally embodies the limitless inspiration of the scientific spirit. And Viktor, though born to the chaos of Zaun, wants nothing more than order. He hopes to control his sickness and inevitably his own mortality. He wants to avoid the violence he fears will be caused by Jayce's weaponry, and when he eventually ascends to his glorious evolution, his dream is to perfect humanity. Perfect peace, perfect control, perfect order. This is even visible in both Jayce and Viktor's kind of final character designs. Jayce goes from a clean-shaven politician to a wild man, his beard untrimmed, his hair long, and his armor piecemealed together for purely utilitarian purposes. Viktor, on the other hand, becomes a literal machine god. He perfects his body and ascends to a level of order even beyond the limits of human governments or titles. For Jayce and Viktor, this conflict of order versus chaos is ultimately destructive. It destroys them both, each one canceling the other out, but, consequently resulting in a net good for the rest of Runeterra and the world. Which brings me to the last area where I think this conflict of order versus chaos can really be seen, in the strange yet masterfully crafted love triangle of Caitlyn, Vi, and Jinx. Jinx is chaos incarnate. Whether we're talking about the limitless, unbridled inspiration of powder, or the more obvious manic pixie warrior girl identity of Jinx. And I think this can be most clearly seen in both her weaponry and her fighting style. It's clear that Jinx is a talented marksman, but every single one of her inventions are chaotic, and I think made purposefully so by Jinx. Throughout the show, she uses a minigun, a rocket launcher, and a pistol. The first two weapons lack all elements of subtlety and have a huge area of effect. Chaotic carnage at its finest. And even her pistol, which I suppose is a more ordered and controlled weapon, she uses like a cowboy, shooting from the hip, one-handed, even without looking. She has the chaotic playfulness of a child and the deadly unpredictability. Jinx goes into almost every conflict in Season 2 ready and willing to give her own life, which ironically makes her a practically unbeatable opponent. It's this childish chaos that I think helps her connect so well with Isha and fearlessly face and embrace Vander as Warwick.
I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect or keep your mouth shut.
Caitlyn, on the other hand, stands for order at every opportunity. Not only does she come from a Piltovan ruling family, but she's also a cop. Her entire role in the city of Piltover, and for most of the plot of Season 1 and 2, is to retain and enforce the law, both in Piltover and eventually Zaun. Even at her darkest, she remains a champion of order, embracing her role as a dictatorial leader, but carrying this concept of order to its philosophical extreme. And if you look at her weaponry compared to Jinx's, I think you'll see this philosophy very clearly echoed. She's an excellent marksman, just as good a shot as Jinx, and yet for the whole narrative chooses to carry a sniper rifle, a weapon which requires a single shot for a single kill, and to be used effectively, kind of the utmost order and precision. Which brings me to the kind of unique aspect of this trio dynamic as opposed to the duality of the cities and Jayce and Viktor. Vi. Who I think here personifies the actual collision between order and chaos, between Caitlyn and Jinx. Vi's fundamental character struggle throughout the whole of the Arcane show is whether to choose the chaos of Jinx and Zaun, or the order and stability of Caitlyn and Piltover. She oscillates between embracing order and chaos throughout the story. She anchors and orders Jinx, who struggles with the reckless chaos of insanity throughout much of Season 1, and yet she adds this important element of street smarts and ingenuity to Caitlyn, giving her a dose of chaos that is much needed. And I think in the finales of Act 1, 2, and 3 of Season 2, Vi makes her choices pretty clear. She chooses both. Which I know that sounds unsatisfying, but it actually brings me back to the existential question of this narrative. What makes us human? Are we more fundamentally creatures of order or of chaos? Vi's journey is our answer. Unlike Zaun and Piltover, and even Jayce and Viktor, she does not embrace one or the other, leading to destruction. Instead, she chooses both, understanding that to truly be human is to embrace both order and chaos at every moment, to struggle against mortality while also accepting it, to fight for love while also surrendering to it, and to embrace the rule of law while also understanding when you ignore it. In the finale, we hear Viktor call magic the arcane, the
sublime intersection of order and chaos.
And while I think he believes this, it's also a false claim. I mean, Jayce quickly responds,
"You've always wanted to cure what you thought were weaknesses. Your leg, your disease. But you were never broken, Viktor. There is beauty in imperfections. They made you who you are."
And I think this quick back and forth, demonstrates the overall message of the show. Humanity is necessarily, beautifully imperfect. We constantly strive to be more, and yet at the same time constantly fail. We are inherently broken, and I think that makes our desire to fix all the more beautiful. Perhaps that's why the show is called Arcane. It's not about just magic, but about the true sublime intersection of order versus chaos, the human contradiction, a balanced duality of order versus chaos, and the person into whom that struggle will inevitably shape us. But these are just my thoughts and opinions on Arcane. I know we got a little heady there, but I would love to know what you guys think about the show in the comments down below. I mean, do you think that there's this conflict of order versus chaos? What do you think the fundamental question of Arcane is? And where do you think the League of Legends storyline should go next? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you want early access to videos, the ability to vote on video topics, and just kind of engage more with this community, feel free to check out the Patreon. We got a wide array of pricing there, and it really does help support the channel and help me keep making these videos. And no matter what you do, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next video.